If you want something done, you ask a busy man.
Pete Waterman and his team are once again displaying a huge layout this summer at Chester Cathedral.
What have I done here now? We've got a big button.
To begin with, we asked Pete to reflect on last year's event.
Well, Making Tracks 1 was really about Thomas Bressey, but it took on a life of its own, so it became sort of Watford to Road in Northamptonshire, effectively, with a viaduct at the end that Bressey built it. Yeah. So it was a bit of a loose, but it was originally, before lockdown, it was supposed to be celebrating 150 years of Thomas Bressey's life at Chester Cathedral, but obviously when we actually looked at the whole project in the space and what was going on, I thought, well, why won't we make a real big layout based on the West Coast? So we called it Making Tracks, and it, as I say, it was basically based on from Watford Tunnel to Road Junction, because we had to put in a piece of the line that wasn't electrified for the viaduct. So we had to make it backwards. So and the response was quite staggering. And we had to do lots of things that we'd never done before, you know, because the catenary was such a major feature. You know, that we had to do things like we had to make tensioners and come up with ideas of how to copy the real railway and keeping the wire tight. And of course, with it being 64 feet long, we couldn't put 64 feet all up at once. So literally, it was, you know, it was trial and error until we actually got to the cathedral. We actually didn't know whether it worked. The thing that worried me was we hadn't even put the wiring in at this point. So we got a buzz bar all the way around, but we certainly had never tried any DCC on it. So, you know, the first thing was a shock. Oh, there's a short. And of course we went around and found it was on one board, and we found it was the one board we wired upside down, so we'd reverse the black and the red. So it was an easy fault to find. Oops, there it is.
The lockdowns in 2020 provided Pete and his team with an extra year in which to build the first layout.
Yeah, well, the truth is, if we hadn't got that extra year through pandemic, we couldn't have done it. That's the truth. I mean, now we know that.
This year, they were faced with having to build a bigger layout in half the time. So how did Pete and his team go about getting it done?
Well, if you want something done, you ask a busy man. And that's definitely the truth in this. I mean, when we started this back in October, just with the rough idea of Hill Moreton Junction, little did we realise, of course, the luxury that the pandemic had given us on the layout number one, because 4 of us had been furloughed. So there were 4 people that could come literally 5 days a week if we'd have wanted to, and I came in every day. You know, so suddenly when we're not furloughed anymore, suddenly you're down to 2 days a week, and 4 of the lads work at Manchester Airport. So, you know, some weeks I don't see them for 3 weeks. That makes a big difference. So I've lost a few sleepless nights, but I'm glad to say we've caught up a little bit. We have put some extra effort in.
As with the layout last year, Making Tracks 2 is also based on the West Coast Main Line, but a different section, as Pete now reveals.
Yes, it's now Kilsby Tunnel to Rugby, basically, but not as far as Rugby, to the Great Central Bridge. Because that's an area I know inside out, upside down, backwards. Of course, it's where I spent all my 50s in my youth train spotting. So, and I personally think it's a wonderful part of the railway. And what I've done, again, you know, sometimes you bit off slightly more than you can chew. I wanted to keep the original part of the original bridges at the junction, because I think they're amazing. They're steel construction. So I decided to build that junction, but with the original bridges.
Very good, Pete. But
it was only when we built them that we realised that actually you can't do it like that. So again, we've had to rebuild 3 parts of the layout twice. We've had to take it out completely and go, that doesn't work, and then work it out again. And thanks to our web page, our Railnuts page, we had two fabulous Network Rail guys actually send us all the drawings and all the photographs for everything. So it was like, oh Christ, somebody always comes out of the woodwork when you're finished.
When you finished
it,
you've got to change it.
But we took the decision, it's the right thing to do. We'll take it out, we'll keep the original bridges on half of the viaduct, and we'll put the new viaduct in as per as it is now. And it actually, we think it looks better. It actually works a lot better for us. It looks better.
And how much bigger will it be?
We've gone from, last year we were 64 feet, but of course we had 3 tunnels last year. So we lost 24 feet to tunnels.
Of viewing.
Well, this year we've got 1 tunnel, which is about 3 feet long, and we've gone round the corner with the Great Central. So we've actually got about 72 feet of actual model this year. And that makes a big difference. Honestly, so much more modelling to be done. Far more, it's almost double the scenery, and that's the thing that you forget. You forget you've got 4 main lines, so you lost 24 feet last year, but of course you haven't lost 24 feet at all because you've lost that 4 times. Because now you've got it back, you've got 4 main lines that have all got to be scenically modelled. So you're suddenly at 80, nearly 100 feet of extra modelling.
It's going to be a long hot season for Pete and his team at the cathedral. I wonder how they'll cope with the long hours.
Well, it's an extra week this year, yeah. So last year it was 7 weeks, so this year it's 8 weeks. And we're doing a lot different this year. I mean, to be fair, I think if we hadn't come up with a slightly different way of working, I'm not sure we could have, because we were struggling towards the end last time. We were struggling at the end.
Yeah.
I mean, the Zemo system that we had was 20 years old. It was all mostly wires. We were tripping over them because of course the points were 64 feet apart. So we were tripping over the controller. So by the end, I think each controller had been kicked or fallen over at least 4 times. On the last but one day, one of the controllers actually gave up the ghost. To be fair, we got away with it last time, and there were times when I was on my own running 4 tracks at 9 o'clock in the morning, thinking, what have I done here now? But we kept it going for the public, and then by 10 o'clock, other members started to creep in, and other volunteers come. This time we've done it differently. We've realised the thing that we missed last time was getting the public involved. Because you're in a big public space like this, we thought the real joy that we got as model railway enthusiasts was watching people's reaction. That's what really excited us. And watch people, grandchildren saying to their granddad, when we get home, can we get your train set out, granddad? That's to me what it was all about. So this time we thought, let's involve the public from day one. So the whole layout can be run from tablets. So we'll hand out the tablets to people and say, right, there's your train, it's all on this, it's all on the Fleischmann system. You can see the train on your tablet, you can drive it, it's all there. And then on the actual layout, which you'll see later, are 2 big boards, like on a real signal box. You can follow your train round and it shows you all the signals, so you're able to drive on your tablet but watch where you are on the whole layout and see if you can get round.
That all sounds great, Pete, but could it be a recipe for disaster?
We hope. We've got a big button they can't see, but we have got a big button that'll stop it. But I mean, yeah, we have a button that if anybody is too keen and they're following too fast and they pass a signal at danger, we can press the button and stop the train. Because we don't want. I mean, we did have one guy turn up at the cathedral last year who spent 6 hours, and I never saw him take a picture. And I said to him, "Yeah, he's been here 6 hours. You not took a picture." He said, "Oh, you haven't had a crash yet." You've come to see a crash. You've come to the wrong place. We're trying to avoid crashes here.
Thank goodness for that, Pete. Now, if it's a success this year, will you be doing it again?
No, this This is the last time at the cathedral because next year they have an exhibition, a different exhibition, so we can't go back to the cathedral next year. So this is the final time at the cathedral. But of course now everybody's got the bug and everybody's looking at, we've got two 64-foot railway models, right? So you say, well, let's join the buggers together and make 150 foot. But it isn't that easy.
No.
It isn't that easy. So, you know, I'm not saying we're not going to look at this, and we're talking. We have been offered a venue that can take 240 feet. So, because there's not many venues that can take that. I mean, they could do it at Worley, but you know, it's not worth setting up for 2 days. That's just impossible. So, I would like to try and do something on a grand scale in 00. You know, particularly in that we're talking about 5.5 scale miles, and you know, the one thing that that pleased me about the first exhibition, not one loco failed. We had no failures. So, you know, the Pendolinos, for instance, did 56 real miles and never stopped once. And you know, Hornby offered to take them back and service them, and we've said no. We're actually going to run them again without servicing to see how far we actually can get these, because we're convinced they'll do another 56 miles and they won't even worry about it.
And finally, Pete, what will visitors see that's extra special this year?
It'll be a lot more fun, a lot more interactive, and we're doing a lot of things that nobody's done before. Again, we've got flashing Daleks on the layout. So for all the drivers, you know, that said, "Where's your Daleks?" This year we've got Daleks.
Making Tracks 2 is open at Chester Cathedral from Monday to Saturday until Saturday the 3rd of September. Visit the Chester Cathedral website for full details. And don't miss our follow-up story on the event in the September issue of Railway Modeller.